Hello, I'm Sam from Cultaholic.com and this is Graded for Money in the Bank 2019, where I'm going to take a look at the full show, segment by segment, and award each little bit a grade from A+ to F. God, it's light outside already. A lot of exciting things happening on this card, some strange things happening on this card, but overall, pretty good show. Let's get into it. Hit the intro. So on the Money in the Bank kickoff, we were supposed to have two matches, I think, but we only wound up getting the one, and that was Bryan and Rowan versus the Usos. And this one starts just a little bit kind of weird, because the Usos come out after Bryan and Rowan are already in the ring. They come out down to the ring with microphones, and it's like, oh, what they're going to do? And I was expecting them to be like, let's make this for the belts and make it interesting. Nope. They instead called Bryan and Rowan SpongeBob and Patrick. And then, yeah, one of the Usos sang the SpongeBob theme. There was a SpongeBob chant, and Corey just wouldn't stop talking about SpongeBob. So, good start to the show. The Usos get Bryan under control fairly quickly early on in this one, but Rowan quickly gets in and levels the playing field. And then Bryan does some heelys on the outside, and Jay ends up losing his t-shirt. And eventually Bryan tries to slow the pace of the match down to make it more in his favour. He brings Rowan back in. Rowan gets in with his big old double fisty head squeezy thing. And they're working well as a team at cutting Jay off and keeping him on their side of the ring until Jay gets free and he gets the hot tag to Jimmy. So Jimmy gets in, cleans house, and he hits a whisper in the wind for some reason, and then Rowan hits a jackhammer because it's 1998, I guess. And then when it's back to Bryan in the ring, Jay comes off the top rope and Bryan catches him into a label lock. He does manage to get free though. Rowan then gets dealt with on the outside by the Usos, and then when Bryan comes running out to make a dive of his own, they connect with a double super kick. And then Bryan's back in the ring, they set up for the double team finish, and they pick up the 3. I'm going to give this one a B-. It was a great match, it was full of exciting moments, but it was hampered a little bit by the fact they kept cutting to adverts during pivotal moments in the match. There was a whole point where Rowan had both guys up on the top turnbuckle, and he was going for some weird like double superplexy thing, and like no, they just sat there on an advert and were doing the whole picture-in-picture thing. It just, choose your moments. But Rowan got some good screen time in. He looked like an absolute beast. Bryan is just Bryan. He's always going to be one of the best. And the Usos consistently, as they always do, prove that they're just possibly the best tag team in the world. And then we move into the main card, and the show opens with the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match. There was also a massive subscribe to Cultaholic sign, like just by the entrance ramp. There was a Cultaholic sign a little bit further back. There was a Cultaholic sign on the floor, and all of them were prominent during the entrances. So thank you very much, Hartford, Connecticut. So things in this match get immediately mental. Everybody's brawling. Nikki gets in the ring and does the Bubba Ray ladder spin, and she wipes everybody out. That is until Dana comes in and drop kicks her. Natty and Carmella then start going at it, with Natty catapulting Carmella face first into a bunch of ladders. And then when Natty tries to do the exact same thing to Naomi, she just lands on her feet, which was really cool, right on the ladder, jumps back down and takes it straight back to Natty. There was a nice moment where everybody was fighting over a closed ladder and Dana manages to clamber her way up the top of it, and then the ladder sort of fell, and it fell on Bayley, and she let out like an audible scream, and it was definitely not supposed to happen because it caught her like right here on the top of the leg, and it looked horrible. There was also this really cool moment when Naomi ran across 2 sets of ladders, and then there's a whole point where she was in between 2 groups of people with 2 sets of ladders, and then she sort of ducks as they run into each other and collide and wipe themselves out. And then I think she like tweaks her knee or something, but Carmella is walked to the back by medical staff. Oh no, she's not going to return. Things just keep ramping and ramping and ramping, with people getting closer and closer to the briefcase, but there's only one moment for me that was absolutely mental, and it comes courtesy of Dana and Mandy. So they're both at the top of the ladder, they're both fighting for the case, and then Dana just grabs hold of it, starts swinging and just kicking her feet wildly, and it looked really, really scary. Mandy had to like grab her and put her back on the ladder. It was like, oh, don't fall, don't fall, don't fall, don't fall, and then she like got back on the ladder safely, so that was nice. And then eventually Carmella re-emerges. She takes out Mandy at ringside, she goes to climb the ladder, and that sneaky Sonya Deville, who is at ringside, she gets herself involved, but obviously nothing bad can happen to her because it's a no DQ match. It's really cool because she then goes and grabs Mandy. She's trying to get Mandy to climb the ladder. She set up the ladder for her, got it nice and straight in line with the briefcase, but Mandy just can't stand. So she hoists her over her shoulders like fireman's carry style and starts climbing rung by rung with her friend on her back. But it all goes wrong for them both, and then Bayley turns up, she climbs the ladder, she unhooks the briefcase, and Bayley is Miss Money in the Bank 2019. I'm going to give this one a B+. The set piece moments were great, the spots were fantastic, some of them were really, really horrible looking. It felt a little scrappy in places, but overall enjoyable match with plenty of memorable moments. We then go backstage, and all of the backstage segments tonight are connected in one big story. And it all culminates at the end of the night, which we're going to get to that. We're definitely going to get to that. So Sami Zayn is looking for Shane McMahon, and he finds Triple H, who's on the phone to somebody going, well, it's Money in the Bank, and, people need to be excited, and, anything can happen at Money in the Bank. And he's just, talking to a mate. And Sami's just, he's like, come on, where's Shane? Where's Shane? And Triple H is just he's basically just getting his phone and going, just turning away from him as much as he physically can, until he can't ignore him anymore. And then he's like, what do you want? Sami is worried about Braun Strowman, and Triple H tells him, don't worry about it, he's banned from the building. We then go back to the ring for Rey Mysterio versus Samoa Joe for the United States Championship. And I'm thinking, where's Dominic? Is he going to be at ringside? Is he going to come out with Rey? Is he going to do anything like that? No, he's backstage watching Sideways on a TV. Joe goes straight in with the kicks. He manages to ground Rey pretty quickly. As long as he can keep the power up and keep Rey nice and slow, he's going to be able to have a good time. That doesn't stop Rey fighting back though, and he must connect with Joe because he comes off the top rope, and then all of a sudden when Joe looks up, his nose has exploded. There's just blood everywhere. And then the match gets really weird because Joe goes to powerbomb Rey. Rey rolls through into a pin attempt, reverses it into a pin attempt, and picks up the 3, despite the fact that Joe's shoulders were nowhere near the mat. Now, I don't know if this is a storyline thing, but throughout the night, there were a few moments where it was just what are the officials doing? There just didn't seem to be any consistency with the officials. So it did feel a little bit like, I guess, a botched ending, it wasn't supposed to happen that quickly or something, but Dominic comes down to celebrate with his dad, and Joe, having ran to Gorilla going, what the hell do I do? Comes sprinting back down and takes him out. Rey, that is, not Dominic. Then he hits a senton while Dominic just stands and watches, and then he just leaves. And then Dominic gets in the ring and he's like, no, Dad, this is so, it's not like I could have done anything. I'm going to give this one a C+. If that was the intended ending, it was pretty much a bit of a squash, wasn't it? So yeah, I don't grade things, if it's a super short match, I don't think it can really be, unless it's a pivotal story thing. I can't really give it higher than a C+. The thing was, the match was short, the ending was a little bit messy, but the angle afterwards was great. I loved the idea that Dominic's sort of getting a little bit goaded to come into the ring. Joe's sort of just hitting his old man, beating him up, and I think it's going to lead to some sort of storyline where Rey's I can't do this anymore, and he hands over his mask, as Ross has been talking about, to his son. And then we go backstage, and look who's turned up. It's everybody's favourite band from the building, man. It's Braun Strowman, and he's just causing havoc and demanding to see Sami Zayn. And then we go back to the ring for The Miz vs Shane McMahon in a steel cage match. Now, bear in mind that a steel cage match is no DQ. That's going to become important a little bit later on. The second that bell rings, Shane is already halfway up that cage, and he's almost out, and The Miz grabs him by 1 foot, and he's just literally that 1 foot is sort of something that happens again and again throughout the match. Shane is so wily and so wiry in trying to escape, and The Miz is just literally clawing to his toes to drag him back into the ring. Miz then starts laying in the kicks until he gets powerbombed into the cage wall by Shane. Shane then grounds him for a bit and keeps throwing him into the cage walls. There's a really nice moment where he goes for a coast to coast and Miz catches him in midair and locks in a figure 4. There's another moment here where Shane nearly escapes 3 times, but Miz drags him back by the very ends of his toes. But this time, he tried to escape through the cell door, but he goes under the apron and he comes out as Miz drags him back in with a steel chair. Miz and Shane sort of knock each other down and they're both staring at the chair in between them and they're looking at it going, who's going to get it first? It's Miz, and then Shane shuffles like a toddler into the corner while just eating chair shot after chair shot after chair shot. Miz is just wailing on him. He hits a skull-crushing finale onto the chair and the ref's 1, 2, and then stops the count because Shane got his foot on the rope. You can't have a rope break in a cage match. And the commentators are all kicking off going what? There's no such thing as a rope break in a cage match. It's no DQ. Crowd then chanting bull S, and Michael Cole even acknowledges the fact that the fans are aware that that's not the standard rule. So what the hell is going on? This is directly contrasted when a few minutes later Shane locks in a triangle on Miz. Miz's legs just keep brushing that bottom rope and the ref ain't doing anything. He's just completely ignoring it. And then we get to the end of the match. The Miz monkey flips Shane into the cage, but Shane grabs a hold of the cage, clambers his way up, and there's a bit of back and forth. Miz looks like he's going to set up sort of like a superplex like at Mania. He's going to go like back into the ring, but Shane, being a sweaty man, slips out of his shirt, lands 2 feet on the floor, and wins the match. I'm going to give this one a C just because, you know, it was great that Shane's sweatiness finally worked out for him, for one, that was lovely. But the confusion over the rope break took me out of it. When you watch wrestling, it's sort of like watching a film or watching anything. You have this level of suspension of disbelief and you sort of get lost in it. And then when something happens that's not supposed to happen, it sort of takes you out of it. And when it's like the referee's as much of a character as any of the talent in the ring. So like if he's making a mistake, is it supposed to be a mistake? Is it an angle? Like, I don't know yet. Maybe they'll turn it into a storyline thing where Shane paid off the ref, or I don't know. It just didn't sit well with me. The second that happened, I was sort of like, oh, like I'm watching wrestling. I wasn't like invested in it. And then we go to the ring for Tony Nese versus Ariya Daivari for the Cruiserweight Championship. It's our boys from 205 Live. And they're on the main card. Daivari came out as well in a convertible Mercedes because he's absolutely made of money. The opening stages of this one, as it always is in the Cruiserweight division, is very, very back and forth. Reversals, feeling each other out at speed, where they're just sort of like trying to work out what is and isn't going to work. But Daivari gets the upper hand quite quickly, but Nese does get to showcase some athleticism. I love that as soon as Nese starts out wrestling and outpacing Daivari, though, he goes straight for the left eye and he gouges out Tony Nese, not out, but gouges his left eye. So Tony Nese like can't see, he's like struggling, and then he capitalizes. He just starts wailing on him. Nese eventually regains composure. He hits his springboard moonsault, but doesn't pick up the 3 with it. Surprise. He hits a picture-perfect dive, he hits his 450, but again, none of those things are going to work. It's only the running Nese that ever allows him to win. So what does he do? He sets up the running Nese, doesn't he? Yeah, except he runs face first into a super kick from Daivari. And then this is where I thought my prediction would come true, because Daivari hits the Persian Lion Splash and he hits the Hammerlock Lariat, his double winning combination. He hasn't lost a single match this year with that combination, and Nese kicks out at like 2.99999. And then very quickly after that, Nese hits the running Nese and picks up the win, retains his belt, and of course he did. I'm going to give this one a B. It was a strong showing from both men, and Daivari looks like a valid challenger, which I like because, you know, it was all well and good in being a charismatic heel, but like his matches on 205 Live haven't exactly been on the level of this. This showcases that he can go a lot further and a lot harder than I thought he could. So I think like he might have a run with that belt soon. But when he does, I'm excited because he's going to be like a horrible sniveling heel that's never going to defend it. It's going to be great. And then we go backstage and Triple H is caught up with Braun and he's like, look, as your boss and as a mate, come on, like, just leave. Just please leave. And, you know, you're banned from the building. Not tonight. See you later. And Braun just goes like, yeah, whatever, and walks off. So Braun's definitely going to interfere in the main event, isn't he? It's also then revealed that Braun had tracked Sami down earlier in the night. He'd like strung him up by his feet like he was meeting a butcher's shop. It was quite funny, but Sami's been rushed to a medical facility. So Sami and Braun potentially aren't, well, Braun's not allowed in the building, but Sami is probably not going to be coming back because he's in a hospital. So what's going to happen? And then we go back to the ring for the first of her title matches. It's Becky Lynch versus Lacey Evans for the Raw Women's Championship. Lacey came down to the ring with a lovely hat on. It was big and green, and she had these little guns that were shooting Lacey dollars, so she had that going for her, which was nice. Just going to refer to my notes on this one because a lot happens quite quickly. Becky kicks Lacey about a bit, hits a baseball slide and drives it into the crowd barrier. Lacey slaps Becky headfirst into the mat over and over. Oh yeah, she goes like, grabs her head and just does that over and over again. She works over Becky's arm to stop her being able to use the disarmer. There's like a nice horrible bit where Lacey gets out a handkerchief to like wipe the sweat away, and then when she's like taking all the sweat off her face, she balls it up and tries to stuff it into Becky's mouth, and this is what gives Becky the impetus to come back and like Hulk up. And then in another weird moment for referees, Becky's got like disarmer locked in, and Lacey rolls through into a pin, and she has Becky down for 4 seconds. Ref doesn't count a single thing. Just, she's like in a pin and predicament, ref stood there, nothing. Like just absolutely nothing. And then following that weird pin, Becky locks in disarmer and picks up the win. I'm going to give this one a C+. It just felt very much like the first of two matches. It didn't feel like anything big was going to happen. It went a lot longer than I thought it would. I thought it would be a very quick affair, but, you know, the other thing that sort of brought it down for me was, again, the referees. It takes you out of it when there's something as blatant as a pin. It's like, why aren't you counting it? You hear the entire crowd going wild. There's not a McMahon in this match. You know, you're not going to be able to pass it off with a storyline. You can't say on one show that like 4 referees got paid off to do different things. And then just as Becky's celebrating, she's out the ring, she's halfway up the ramp, she's got her belt still. Whose music hits but Charlotte? So again, pretty fast-paced one, this one, so I'm going to just refer to some of the notes I've taken. Charlotte comes straight down as they're dragging Lacey out the ring, as I've just said. She drives Becky into the corner, but Becky fights back hard. She comes off the ropes. She misses a splash, though, and then Charlotte takes advantage and starts laying in the kicks. It just seems that whenever Becky tries to fight back, it might take her a little bit, but Charlotte has her scouted. She's able to just get her right back under control. There's a horrible moment where Charlotte attempts natural selection out on the apron, but Becky holds the rope, and Charlotte just bumps her lower spine on the apron and then falls to the floor in like a heap. And this is where things get a little bit weird with this match, because Charlotte's being counted out. The referee's looking at Charlotte and doing that. He's got his back to Becky. Out comes Lacey Evans. She gives Becky the women's right, her finisher, the big slap. And yeah, Lacey's out there doing devious things. Charlotte comes in to capitalize, but Becky goes for a roll-up, and then there's another really awkward moment with a referee, but that doesn't matter though, because Charlotte Flair is able to dispose of Becky Lynch with a big boot. That's right, big boot. 1, 2, 3. Your new SmackDown Women's Champion is Charlotte Flair. So post-match, Becky goes barreling out of the ring, attacks Lacey Evans, and then Charlotte and Lacey double team her and just start like attacking her. And who comes out to make the save but Bayley with her Money in the Bank briefcase? There comes a moment where it's just Bayley and Charlotte, and Bayley has a moment where she's staring at the case and the crowd realize what's about to happen and start losing their mind. She looks though when she goes to pick it up like she's going to go no and go to the back, but no, she turns around, thrusts it into the referee's hands, hits a massive diving elbow and gets the 3. So your new champion, again, your new champion, your new SmackDown Women's Champion is Bayley. Backstage, Roman Reigns is walking along with his body armor on and he's checking his gloves, and then boom, nailed in the back with an acoustic guitar by Elias. He then comes to the ring, he's given an electric guitar, he sings a disparaging song about Roman. He says my line of the night, which is thank you, goodbye, I love none of you, and then he gets all the way up the ramp, and whose music hits? It's bloody Roman Reigns in it, and he comes barreling out so fast when he hits Elias, he goes tumbling all the way down the ramp until he's in a heap at the very bottom. So yeah, Rowan massacres him, obviously, gets him in the ring, spear, 1, 2, 3, and this match gets a C. It was a lovely promo, it was a great backstage attack, it's a squash for me, and again, I can't really rate squashes higher than a C. We then go to the ring for AJ Styles versus Seth Rollins for the Universal Championship. Both men are feeling each other out a lot in the opening of this one, but the aggression coming from Seth, that's something entirely new. It was very interesting. And early on, there was also a Styles Clash attempt on the apron, only for Rollins to escape and then just run headfirst into a sliding knee. Rollins drives AJ into the announce table twice with 2 different dives, a sling blade, a diving clothesline. He's got AJ in the palm of his hand, right where he wants him. Rollins hits that really impressive like reverse superplex when he lands and captures the roll through into like the reverse Falcon Arrow. Always love seeing that, and this is a point of the match where it becomes very full speed back and forth. Like AJ rolls him through into a calf crusher, and then Rollins manages to escape, and then AJ hits a backflip off the turnbuckle into a reverse DDT. It was like one of the slickest things on the entire show. Then Seth attempts a stomp, and then AJ manages to reverse it into a Styles Clash. And then Rollins comes off the rope with a ripcord knee, just boots Styles in the face, and then he finally connects with the stomp to pick up the 3. And post-match, both men, in a show of respect, shake each other's hands. I have to give this match an A. It was great storytelling, pacing, excitement, all of the boxes that you could possibly tick were ticked. The dramatic reversals and moments of tension were all just nicely spaced out throughout the entire match. And it all crescendoed to this beautiful ending, and the match itself was just as good as I think we all imagined it would be given the two men involved. So now we get to the weirdest moment on the entire show. Out come Lucha House Party, which wasn't scheduled, we didn't know about it, what the hell's going on? So Lucha House Party are all in the ring, in their gear, who's gonna face them, which team's it gonna be? It's not a team, it's Lars Sullivan, and he comes out to a chorus of boos, obviously. His first pay-per-view spot after everything that's come out is him beating up 3 Hispanic wrestlers. It gets the question mark. This entire thing gets the question mark. We're now finally at our semi-main event of the evening, and it's Kevin Owens versus Kofi Kingston for the WWE Championship. The match starts off hot with Kofi sending Owens to the outside, he even manages to launch him into the barricade. But as agile as Kofi is, Owens is able to grind him down with some brute strength. It just takes him a little while to get there. So there's this moment where Owens throws Kofi out of the ring, where he collides with not only the apron but a cameraman, and then all the camera gear falls on him, I imagine, and it just must have hurt like hell. And if that wasn't enough, he then comes off the apron and hits a frog splash onto Kofi, who's on the floor. Poor Kofi. A little while into the match, Kofi goes for the SOS a couple of times, he gets blocked, and then he finally manages to hit it, but Kevin Owens kicks out. Things go back and forth. Kofi hits a Trouble in Paradise, Owens hits a stunner, but neither of them are able to pick up a win from it. Owens then just beats Kofi down, takes his shoes off, and he goes for a swanton, and I'm guessing the mentality here is if he lands so heavily and horribly on Kofi's exposed feet, he might damage or just break them completely, so he can't hit his finish. The only problem here is that Kofi actually gets his knees up and then hits a Trouble in Paradise to pick up the win and retain his title. I'm going to give this one a B. It was just a great match. Good back and forth. There were strong moments where I thought that Owens could realistically strip Kofi of the title. And of course, as he always does, Kofi just sort of stole the show. He was great. Absolutely great. And then we go to the ring for tonight's main event, which is the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. So before the bell rings, we have been told there is no Braun Strowman and Sami's still in the hospital, medical facility. So yeah, bell rings, Randy Orton straight out of the ring, straight to the outside. Orton puts Ali, Ricochet and Balor all through the same announce table. And then it looks like Orton could actually pick up an early victory because he's the only guy and he's got a ladder and the ring's clear and he's all the way up the top and he's touching the briefcase. And then Andrade comes from nowhere and just drop kicks the ladder, springboard drop kick the ladder out from underneath Randy. That landing must have been absolutely horrible. Ali hits an impressive dive on Drew through a ladder. Andrade gets dumped horribly to the outside by Ricochet. This happens a couple of times. He takes some really nasty looking falls. Ali and Ricochet then start an athletic back and forth, climbing the ladder, only to get dragged off by Corbin and Drew. And then, Corbin and Drew just sort of, their whole thing is they are buddying up, obviously. They're going to help each other as much as they can, but at some point, Corbin's going to turn on him because that's just who Corbin is, innit? There was a lot of ladders getting thrown around, just getting chest passed into people. Andrade then has a ladder set up in the middle of the ring and he slots another ladder through on the rope and through one of the rungs of the ladder that stood up. It's sort of if you imagine that's the ladder, this thing goes off it goes in straight. The only problem is that the intersecting ladder, the one that's going into the set of standing ladders, it's not quite all the way through the rung, so it looks like it's about to fall anyway. And then when Andrade comes off the top with a sunset flip powerbomb to Finn, Andrade hits that ladder first, the flat one. He hits the horizontal ladder first, and it falls out, and then Finn has this horrible landing onto a bouncing ladder, and he gets thrown, not even kidding, 5 feet in the air. Because of the rope bouncing under the weight of the impact, he just goes, and he just bounces straight off it. There's a massive, horrible Spanish fly. McIntyre sets up another ladder bridging the announce table and the ring. That'll get used in just a little bit. Corbin puts Ali through the Spanish announce table. He then betrays Drew, just throwing him into the crowd. Just have him. Just that's it. Corbin side slammed Balor into a ladder that was on its side and there was no give. He just lands on it. You watched his spine just go around it. Nasty, nasty, nasty. Drew at one point grabs Ricochet by his ear like a naughty schoolboy and just launches him over the top rope, and he lands in that bridged ladder that Drew set up, snapping it clean in half. And then we get to the closing stages of the match. Drew is climbing a ladder, and then Randy Orton pulls him off the ladder, and as he's falling, hits him with this sweet, sweet picture-perfect RKO. It was really nice. And then Corbin's on the ladder, and then Ali manages to climb up over Corbin, kick him off the ladder, and it looks like Ali's about to get the briefcase when Brock Lesnar's music hits. So it was probably Heyman that Triple H was talking to on the phone earlier. He's taken Sami's spot and he's on his way down to the ring, and he wipes out a cameraman, he takes care of everybody else, sets up a ladder, climbs it, unhooks the briefcase, and boom, Beast in the Bank. Brock Lesnar is the Money in the Bank holder. Mr. Money in the Bank 2019. This is absolutely mental. Now, because of that ending, I was tentatively going to give the match a B+, but when I thought about it, I think I'm actually going to give it an A. So long as you can get him to turn up a little bit more regularly than he had in the past, Brock with the Money in the Bank briefcase isn't necessarily a bad idea. WWE's pissed off final boss that no longer has his gold belt, yeah, like he wants it back as desperately as he can, but he had to go through official channels in the past. He had to get matches scheduled and all this stuff. Now he can just turn up with a briefcase. Now he can just do whatever he wants. And I think the idea that Lesnar could strike at any time, so long as you don't do it too quickly and you have it drag out for a little bit, I think it'll work quite well. But I mean, the match itself, like, Jesus, like, standing ovation for all 7 men that were involved in the bulk of that match. The match was absolutely insane. There was like endless energy, amazing storytelling, the pacing was perfect, everything just seemed to fall into place with it, and it had those brutal spots every now and then. And I think not a single guy came out of that match without their stock being raised very slightly in the eyes of the fans. But in terms of an overall grade for Money in the Bank 2019, I'm gonna give the show an A-. I might have just had too much fun watching it, but it was a strong pay-per-view. There was the couple of weird moments with the referees. There was the really awkward moment with Lars, which I'd just rather forget about. But, you know, the 2 titular matches were great. Just everything about the show other than those problems that I'd sort of identified. It was just solid, wasn't it? Seth AJ was unbelievable. Kofi Owens, Bayley shot cash in, Becky going back to back. It was all just really well structured. Like I said, we'll probably never find out what was wrong with the referees tonight, but yeah. It was a great show. What did you guys think of it? Let us know in the comments below. I've been Sam from Cultaholic.com. See you later. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments below. You can follow Cultaholic on Twitter at Cultaholic. You can check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Cultaholic. If you like what we do here at Cultaholic, you can check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/Cultaholic. And no matter what you do, don't ever forget to hit subscribe and join us.